Welcome back, lacrosse friends, to Inside the World of Box Lacrosse on Blue Squatch Productions and Inside Lacrosse. I'm Steven Stamp. Adam Levy is usually with us, but he was having internet issues today, so we're forging ahead. He will definitely be back, and he said he was going out to get some upgraded tech to make sure the internet's better all over his house. And Greg Beecher, of course, from Blue Squatch is with us. And in this segment, we are going to look at who among the top 4 teams might drop in the standings and who among the bottom 4 could rise. And we'll start. I'm going to try to, everyone's asking about Marshall Palace, right?
Yes, please answer that one. Thank you. That has been in the comments.
Okay. So I think Marshall was having some frustration with not playing, with not getting the chances he thought he would have this year. I mean, it's a process, right? They had Eric Fennell come in. He's actually been traded, which could have opened up more space. They've got Carson Moyer in. They've been needing to dress guys, but I think Marshall had some frustration. And I think the team and Marshall are both trying to figure out what the best route for them going forward is. I'm not sure if we see Marshall back or not in Albany, to be perfectly honest.
I have heard that, and I've actually heard a rumor that Georgia might be involved somehow. I'm not sure how that played out, but I had a buddy of mine tell me that he heard something about Georgia. So I said, okay.
Really? Because they just got Torrin Ecclestone off the IR, their first rounder from last year. They've got Brian Cole who plays up. They've got, Shane Jackson. Like they already have a lot of weapons, but maybe they just feel like they need a little more on the left side.
Yeah, Zach Miller's a lefty, right? And he's still
out with them.
Yeah, he's still out with his knee.
Oh, I thought they just released him.
Oh, maybe they did. I thought he had knee issues.
I don't know. Could be. I have to check the IR. Sorry, I should have. Well, we can check that, but let's talk about who will rise and fall. Shall we start with the teams in the top 4 that could fall?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the Bandits, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No. And one of the things, I mean, they've outscored their opponents through 5 games, as you can see, by 33 goals. They're very good. I still do not believe they're going 18-0, but boy, every week you think there's a little bit more chance they just keep winning. I think there's going to be a night that Matt Vince is off or the offense goes cold. I mean, Dane Smith can't average 8 assists per game, right? Right?
I don't know.
At my musings.
Actually, after reading your musings in the comparison to Gretzky there, we talked about it on Yeti Talks. You know what? He might go. Because I said that. I said, as we look back at it, they were talking and everybody was like, Lyle Thompson is that player of our generation. I said, but when you talk about Gretzky for us hockey guys, his biggest thing was he was such a feeder. He made everybody else around him so great that I don't know. I think when you talk about Dane Smith, that's where he'll be like that was a perfect example. I really love that article.
I think the thing about Gretzky that I didn't mention, by the way, is he was setting all those assist records. He was like, oh, I tied Marcel Dion for the scoring title, but because he had more goals, well, I'll just get more assists than anybody has points. Cool. And I mean, remarkable. And now Dane is on that track. That's the crux of that story. But Wayne Gretzky was also scoring over 50 goals a year. And one of the years that he had, 100 and bunch of assists, he had 92 goals. It's insane. Nobody does that in any sport. I think it's funny when people say, oh, well, it was the high scoring era and this and that. And it's like, but he had so much more than all the other people at the same time. Like, he was the guy. Like, don't undermine what Wayne Gretzky.
No, whenever you talk these, it's very important to put it in context with the time because it's the style of the time, and some people just elevate themselves to different levels. Like when you look through the historic numbers, I mean, now what did they say? Jeff Teet's on pace with John Tavares, but I did not realize how great of a player he was until I started looking through the titles as they were talking about Jeff Teet, and I was like, wow, this guy is just like light years ahead of some people.
Tavares? Oh my goodness. Yeah. He was playing 8-game seasons, right? For a lot of his career in 10 games, and they gradually built up. Yeah. And then his prime of his career, of course, was in those shorter seasons, and he kept playing because he played so long and was still effective, but he wasn't. I mean, nobody's the same guy at 45 that they were at 25, 30, 35, right? But he was, he was fantastic. It's funny because people think of him, if you saw him later in his career, and he was, the wily veteran who knew where to get to in that, but he was a tremendous athlete. He is in the top 3 all time in loose balls in the National Lacrosse League. I remember a game, he was playing with the St. Regis Indians in Major Series Lacrosse. They came to Peterborough to play the Lakers, and they had 9 or 10 runners. Not a lot of runners, right? He played defense the whole game and was just unbelievable. He could have been a Hall of Fame defensive player in the NLL. He was so good, and he would just stay back there. And he literally was probably on the floor for 45 minutes in that game because he would play defense and just make it, just strip balls, everything. And when he got a ball, he'd just hit somebody up the floor and create a scoring chance. And it was unbelievable. Like it was one of the most incredible performances I've seen. It's funny. I remember talking to him about it once. He says, "Yeah, we won that game, didn't we?" I was like, "No, you actually lost that one." But they did have games like that where they would be really shorthanded, and he would just do unbelievable stuff, and they would actually go and win these games. And that's when, I mean, the Lakers were, I think, the top team in the league at that point, or certainly among the top couple. And but he was Tavares, like, it's mind-boggling. Yeah. What a great athlete he was.
It is crazy. Speaking of which, I think that's a big part of the reason the Wings are up there is Brendan O'Neill, the way he's been playing. I don't think either of us are going to pick the Wings. Who are you thinking, Ottawa or the Rush? Which of them is going to be?
You're probably the Wings. Okay.
I was just going to say that you have not been watching the Wings games. I'm going to tell you right now, Stamper.
No. I think they're coming along, and they're going to get better. Like we talked about, I think their defense will get better, and working with Damoud, I think they're going to stay. I don't know that they're going to finish second in the league, maybe, but I see them staying up. I think with Ottawa and Saskatchewan, I don't really picture either of them dropping substantially. I think Ottawa they're good. They've got Higgins. I think the Fennell edition is actually going to be quite good for them. They need that guy doing that role. If they get O'Connor back, and if they get healthy, it's going to help. Callum Jones coming back would help. Saskatchewan, I was big on them before the season. I still think they have a good defensive group. I think they're another one where they need to come along and get better season. That's a tough one. I think Saskatchewan and Ottawa are both going to drop into the middle class. And remember last year there was that 5-way tie for the final playoff spot, right? All those teams that went 8 and 10, and that included Ottawa or New York at the time, right? Saskatchewan was in there. I think Calgary was in there. Some Vancouver was in there, and then Rochester are the ones that got the tiebreaker and went to the playoffs. I think we're going to have a very thick middle class. I think Buffalo just stays ahead of everybody all season, honestly. I think Philadelphia is going to stay up there, but they're going to lose some games. They're going to be in that mix, probably towards the top end of it. But I think kind of everybody else you look at, I think there's a lot of teams that are really very close. For the bottom 4, that's San Diego down, right, at this point? Oh, no, Toronto.
So it's Halifax, Vegas, Albany, okay. Toronto. And this is where it gets tough for me. This was actually a harder pick for me, I thought, because as you're looking at Albany or Toronto, I think it comes down to injuries and how guys heal up. Is really, maybe you've got a little more insight into the health of the players. So, I mean, which team do you think is going to be healthier going forward?
It's so hard to say. And I mean, I think I don't have any, because when I talk to folks, I just, that they're seeing how they're coming along. Like, are there some long-term things? I don't know. And I mean, coaches are way more willing to talk about when a guy is getting close or is getting ready to play than when a guy won't be playing. If they're, they'll say like, oh, we're hoping he's soon, but they really, you don't know with some of these things. I think Albany and Toronto are both going to climb up. I think here's the thing though. There are 8 playoff spots. We've seen how amazingly competitive, like it is fiercely competitive for those final playoff spots, right? So you have a 2-5 team and a 1-5 team. Can they both make the playoffs? It's possible, But boy, that's a lot of teams to overcome because, Halifax is 2-4. Are they going to make the playoffs? Maybe. I mean, they obviously have a lot of good things going. Randy Stotts has been awesome. They've got Clark Peterson, Graham Hossack. I mean, Jake Withers, Colton Armstrong, one of the underrated players in the league. San Diego, this is the first time they've been under 500 in 3 years, right? Rochester's playing well. I think all these teams are in the mix, which means, one, you've got a lot of teams to pass to get up from those bottom spots into a playoff spot. And the other is you have a tough game every week. We haven't mentioned Las Vegas. They just beat San Diego. I think Drew Belgrave is a really nice addition there. I think he's going to fly under the radar a bit, but going to make a difference. And, maybe they win a bunch. It's hard to picture that young team with all these more veteran and really well put together teams around them. Las Vegas coming up, but I mean, they're right there.
So Toronto, though, 53 goals for. I mean, wow. That is a very tough stat to get.
Tom Schreiber's back and had 7 points in his first game, so that's huge. But Schreiber comes back as Mark Matthews goes out. That's a tough one. Matthews still very important to that team. I think the thing is, Josh Dawick is playing great. And he's been just an outstanding season. But if Josh Dawick is your leading goal scorer, there might be a problem, right? Because you've normally got guys who are going to be scoring more than that. And when I talked to him and did a story for NLL.com, you should go check out about him playing with Austria at the Worlds and how that helped him with his confidence, rebuilding it and being ready and having a good season this year. And he's just kept it rolling. But he says, hey, we're better with Tom Schreiber, so he's going to have the ball. I'm not going to handle it as much. That's okay. He's trying to work on all the things to be a great teammate, a great complementary player. But he's also, he's scoring on dunks from behind the net on really good set plays. And he's doing great, but they need some guys to get going. Corey Small hasn't been.
I was just going to say, what do you think's going on with Corey Smalls? Is that just because Schreiber wasn't in? He's one of those guys that does better when the attention's on the bigger stars and he can kind of do his thing, or?
I think so. I think he is an off-ball guy for the most part, right? So you have Tom Schreiber, you have Mark Matthews. People have to really pay attention. Chris Boucher is just running everywhere, right? He's just a kinetic energy guy. And Corey Small just kind of slips into spaces and reads everything so well and gets to a spot just at the right moment. And but then when they don't have all those guys, then maybe it takes away from that a bit for him.
Yeah, no, I think that is a big part. I think that's what people don't realize with the injury bug is the way that these teams gel. Like Colton Watkinson, you might not see him getting up the floor as much transition for some of the fans, but the way he communicates with that defense and Dougie, and that's the other thing. Dougie's had some tough games this year where he just kind of didn't look right. I don't know if it's the defense, and they were getting tired towards the end of the game. Like, just a big difference between the way they even played, where they were always on the hands. They kind of give up that backdoor pass. Dougie slides well and stays back versus that pressure, and they just didn't seem to have that at the end of the games versus this last game where they came on at the end, basically took the first quarter off.
Yeah, but you look at, like, you go back to the injuries and you hate to beat a dead horse, but you've got some of these key players out and you have somebody like Nicholas Volkov playing a ton of minutes. He's a very good young player. He has a ton of potential, but he was dressed for, I think, 12 or 13 games last year, but he's, some guys by the end of the first season, you're like, this guy's not a rookie anymore. Volkov's still kind of the amount of time and effort, chances and minutes he got. He's still in that sort of rookie-ish phase. And I think you see it once in a while. Again, I think he's going to be great. I think he's doing quite well. But the one goal where we saw him not come and help, the Will Malcolm goal, I think is an example of, having a bunch of young players out, not having a Colton Watkinson, not having a Jackson Nishimura, not having, some of these guys that are missing games. The communication that you talked about is so important. And you can see just that thinking process for young players is a bit slower. It's a bit heavier. Even Will Johansson is a rookie. Having the year to spend with the team last year, and he's such a remarkable, like a freak athlete, I think it has helped. I think he's been great. But anytime you have a preponderance, you have like 3, 4, 5 young players in their first couple of years, there's going to be some challenges. And I think I think that'll come together as they get healthier, and also again as the season goes on. I think you're seeing even Zach Masson, who I'm a huge fan. I loved him in junior. I was excited every time it sounded like he might come and play in the NLL because I really wanted to come and see him play defense. And he's 28 years old and he's finally here. He did college hockey after his junior lacrosse career, and then he was playing pro hockey. He is now here, and he's had a few instances where he's still adjusting to the NLL game, even though he was one of the best defenders coming out of junior lacrosse in years. But he also, had 6 years off in between, 7 years off in between, right?
Yeah, and actually, so a stat that popped out at me as I was looking at the stat leaders, the caused turnovers. So
Yeah.
San Diego has 3 of the top 5, which there's actually, because Rubish and Goldbrecht are tied, they're both tied for third. So I would essentially count 1, 2, and 3. They've got, the top 5 guys, they got 3.
Pull that up
Goldbrecht,
so everyone can
Rubish,
see it, or
and Courier. What's that?
you want to pull that up so everyone can see it? There we
Oh,
go.
yeah, that makes it a little easier.
Cause turnovers. Yeah, Hossack has been fantastic, but Courier did that while he was playing a lot of forward. That's unbelievable. Like, how many is he going to put up now that he's playing D again? And then Goldbrecht and Rubish. I was talking about when we did our awards thing, like who's the top defender in San Diego? Is it Rubish or is it Goldbrecht? I think Eli Goldbrecht's really, really good. I know he was hurt last year for a good chunk of the year, so it wasn't his season of seasons, but boy, he is really something. Rubish is, maybe the best defender of all time at this point, right? And he's up there in that conversation. Yeah. So, and Liam Patton has been really good for Philly. I'm glad to see him up there because he's been awesome. And, all those guys that are showing there have been really good. There aren't a lot right now up at the top of that board. There are not a lot of kind of just fluke situations where somebody just happened to get a bunch or whatever. Taylor Jensen's been really good, and Taylor Jensen's been better. I know face-offs aren't that important, but he has been better since Rochester got Sisselberger because he hasn't had to take the face-offs, and he's been getting to focus more on his defensive role.
Yeah. No, I honestly, watching Jensen there when I clipped the last 2 Rochester games, he was the most impressive guy defensively as far as I didn't know who he was until I started watching the game, and then I clipped a couple of the games. I ended up with a bunch of his highlights and then forgot to add him to the show last week because I kind of ran out of time. But no, he is a really, how long has he been in the league?
This is his second year. He was a rookie last year, and I don't know if he was even drafted. I'm trying to think where he even came from, but it's interesting because he played last year and he had some good games. He didn't play a ton with Rochester, and then he spent the summer playing with the Peterborough Lakers, and I got to see him play a bunch of times there, and boy, he was so good this summer. You could just see that growth taking off. He's got great genes. He's a brother of Josh Byrne. So super athletic guy, right? But he is really coming on with the lacrosse IQ, and he is tenacious. He's a dog with a bone, right?
Yeah, 100%. No, him. So that's kind of similar to the Justin Martin story where he was undrafted, ended up with Toronto, correct?
Yeah, and he was playing. Justin Martin was playing in the Arena League, where he was the transition player of the year with the. He was playing with the Six Nations Snipers, and he was having great summer. He played in the PBLA and was fantastic. He may have been the best player in that league. There are some great players, but I thought he was up there in the conversation for best player overall in that league. He's dynamite, and it's kind of funny because then people, he winds up with Toronto, and I was thinking, finally, he's finally getting his shot, and everyone's like, oh, where'd this guy come from? And I'm like, well, he came from here and here and here. I don't know. I'm sorry, I sound a bit sanctimonious, I guess, but I've just had the opportunity to see him play a lot, and I was such a big fan. I think one of the issues was he had a bit of a knee issue that I'm not sure if he had surgery. It was something that was I think teams were a little worried about the progress with that and worrying how it was going to go. And I think that's well behind him now. So I don't think anybody would hesitate to have him on their team now.
Yeah.
Was that picture too mean?
No.
To put up?
No,
it captured because Adam was talking about the Warrior and Roughneck power plays. And I thought, Vancouver's power play was stumbling. I never want to make fun of anyone. When I'm picking pictures to show a down, I don't want to make anybody look bad. You're trying to capture something. I think picking pictures for stories is really important to help tell part of the story. So I never want to pick on somebody or,
No,
but
I
I just
understand. You
like
could have done
absolutely.
it with yeah, and Johansson, he got beat at one point and he stumbled right out of the way, which leads
Yeah.
me into
Oh my God.
that
Yeah.
was bad. The first highlight I watched, I was out doing the dishes and all of a sudden I heard the goal, so I turned to look and I
Yeah.
seen the highlight. I was like, who was covering him? And then when you watch the longer replay, it was like, oh, he tripped. Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And the thing is, it happens even to
Oh yeah.
elite athletes, right? It happens once in a while.
So who do
Go back to
you?
Phil Esposito,
Yeah.
1972 Canada Russia series. Or was it that, or was it an NHL game? But he tripped over the blue line. He comes out there doing some presentation before the game. He slips and falls on the blue line. It's like, what the heck? This guy, you can't knock him over when he's standing in front of the net, and he just fell down. Like, it happens.
Yeah. No, it's and really Josh brings up a good point that with all the veterans out of Albany's defense are what's hurt, with Wagner being out, that
Wagner
really.
Hill, I keep forgetting to mention him. Yeah, he's huge.
Yeah. No, Wagner, I think that was one of their biggest pickups last year towards the end. I'm a huge
One
fan.
of
Yeah, I loved him when he came in. I
one of their biggest pickups. You mean the
well,
guy who came in and turned them from a really good team into one of the toughest defensives in the league? Yeah, I think that was a good pickup.
yeah, no, that was basic. Yeah,
Yes.
I was a huge fan of that one. He came in. I think not everybody was talking about him, but I was a huge fan. If you have not read that article, definitely check out the Stamper's Musings there with Dane Smith. That was an amazing article. Stamper, we've been going for an hour and 7 minutes now, so we're
Ah,
definitely over our 1 hour time limit. Thank you so much.
oh,
Hopefully next week we have Adam on, and I'll let you kind of close us out and tell us what you guys got going on over at Inside Lacrosse and give everybody a rundown. Although most of the people that are watching this already know.
yeah, I mean, we obviously every week we have my musings, and Adam's got his 3 up, 3 down. We got some other things going. I'm going to have a little coverage of the BC Junior draft because they did a nice job of getting me some info about that. I've got a couple of things outside. I'm doing some Arena Lacrosse League games. I'm going to be calling a very exciting first place battle this Friday between the undefeated Whitby Steelhawks and the Peterborough Timbermen, who are 4-1 right behind them. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. The following Friday, I'm very excited. I'll be in Ottawa when Calgary is at Ottawa to play the Black Bears. I'll be calling play-by-play for that NLL Plus game with Jason Tasse, and we've been prepping. I'll tell you, he is new to doing color. He's done some with me over in Europe, but this will be his first NLL game calling. He's a former Ottawa NLL player and does so much for the game that I'm really looking forward to that game. And then I've got a couple more Arena League games the next day over in Oshawa, the other way, a little bit apart. But and I'm working on a series of play. Last year I did a series of intriguing prospects to watch for the next 4 drafts. I'm going to do that again. Last year was intriguing prospects. This year is prospects to watch, which is the top guys. Some of the like 26, 27 are fantastic drafts, but they're really interesting guys. I try and bring a few nuggets of players that, you might, generally aren't going to get a lot of exposure that I've had the fortune to get to see play, and I think could be really interesting. So we're over the next few weeks, we'll be rolling out some intriguing prospects for the next 4 drafts.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. And as Josh was saying, most of us we read all of it. We read the musings, 3 up, 3 down. It's some of our favorite things, the 5 things we learned. Thank you so much for taking the time again. Next week, hopefully, we will have Adam back as well. We should have everything taken care of. He was pretty much like you said, on his way to the store to make sure it doesn't happen again. And
You're
yeah,
helping me get a better camera setup because I don't think the camera on the webcam on my computer is great. I want to upgrade the quality of the picture because I actually look better than I appear in this videos. I don't. Maybe I'll regret it if I get a higher def camera. I don't know.
I just feel like that was terrible. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Unfortunately, Adam Levy's internet was not quite cooperating, so the rest of this week will just be continued by Steven Stamp and myself. Thanks everybody so much for watching.